Pour a cup and connect with us today as we talk about secular media as Christians. This is Mugs and Mercy. Cheers! No way! The portkey led him to Voldemort!
You said his name!
I did. Oops. You know who. Oh, hello. Welcome back to Mugs and Mercy. If you are just listening, we just were reading/listening to some of our favorite secular media. So we wanted to talk today about secular media because the word secular as Christians oftentimes has a really negative connotation. And a lot of the things we consume, though, are not expressly Christian, right? And so I looked up the definition, and it just means that, like, not expressly from a religious source. Mm-hmm. And so
that's the definition of secular.
The definition of secular. So rather than like pagan or heathen or like anti-Christian, like something being secular in itself just means it's not religious in nature, right? Mm-hmm. I know we've talked a lot about when we were thinking of doing this podcast and all that, we talked a lot about like stories that we love so much and how they've shaped us and how they've made us better Christians, how we've connected more to Christ through these stories or music or whatever it might be. So we wanted to talk today about secular media and how we can actually use it to connect to Christ and how we can properly discern the right kinds of things that we should be partaking in so that they are edifying to us.
Right.
So we're so happy for you to join us, for the viewers, the listeners, and you.
But first, Katie, what's in your mug?
Thank you for asking. I did decaf again today, so it's my Pink Sparkles mug with maple syrup, as Christine has previously recommended. Decaf. Emily.
Yes.
What's in your mug?
In my mug it is an apple slushie. No like additives. It's just apple cider slushie from a local apple orchard, and it's absolutely delicious, and it's in my Peter Rabbit mug. Aww. That I love that my sister gave me. Cute. Christine, what's in your mug?
Oh, why, thank you for asking. I have my C mug, and
letter C.
Yes, under the letter C. It's decaf pour over with, I put in pumpkin spice, you guys.
Ooh, and everything nice.
It is everything nice.
We love fall up in here.
I was like, I have to make sure I do the pumpkin spice thing on camera during fall, during this time, this important time in our lives.
Yes.
And I'm so excited for tonight.
As we've been brainstorming for different episodes, we've been talking a lot about how we want to do things that really are connecting to people and problems that, you know, Christian women, especially Orthodox Christian women, are having and thinking about in their lives. And this discussion came up on a Facebook group that I'm part of for Orthodox women in particular. And it was about there was a comment that was like, oh, why would you consume secular media? Like we're Christians, we're supposed to be apart from the world. And if you're a follower of Christ, why would you want that? And then a lot of people were responding back to it like, hey, like there's a lot of really good things. Like in itself, secular isn't wrong or against Christ.
It doesn't mean pagan or anti-Christ.
Right. And so how do we discern? How do we consume media in such a way that it is honoring to Christ and it brings us closer to him? And so when I was talking to you all about it, like we all have had these really amazing stories that have shaped us and connected us closer to our faith and made us relate to these characters and the struggles that a character's going through. And then you end up being able to take that in your own life and be like, I can fight. And so we can each share our favorite. I will say,
I was just going to add on to that. And that's what I love the idea of myth. And it doesn't necessarily mean what people think. Myth is kind of like a symbolic story.
A story that like explains.
It explains like humanity, the truths of humanity by using big characters. So like a lot of these stories or books or movies that we're going to talk about today, involve like magic and big characters, but it's because, like you were saying, it helps us see ourselves, and it was a reflection on us and how when we go through hard times in our lives, we can think of people from these myths, these mythologies, mythological stories or mythologies, and
Let's say it again, everybody.
mythologies. But we can take these characters and bring them with us, and it doesn't mean they're bad just because they're magical or whatever.
Well, and I think it's part of that like human desire for something more. Like we have this like yearning for, and it's not actually magic, right? We know as Christians, it's this yearning for God, and what is like beyond this world, what is beyond what we can physically see and do here. But I think that yearning,
it's like this yearning for a deeper purpose, and that's God.
And in these epic stories, we kind of can get a little taste of that in a different way.
Yes.
And
I love it.
When I had, speaking of myth and storytelling, I was a theater major. So theater is all about storytelling. That's kind of the point of being in a play or musical, is you're telling a story live on stage. And so one of my professors, because it was a Christian university, so we knew we were coming at it from a Christian perspective, he was talking about the difference between, like the definitional difference between tragedy and comedy. So tragedy ends in death and comedy ends in new life. Like the people get married, they're going to have children, whatever. And he was saying, well, what is like the ultimate story that like marries the tragedy and comedy idea? And the story is that of the resurrection, right? Death and then into new life. And there's story after story, including at least one that I'm going to talk about today, that has the resurrection as a major theme, or a resurrection within the story.
I have so much to say about this. I'm excited.
But
all these things come to mind when you're talking about this.
But the story of the resurrection is written on the hearts of humanity. That's something my professor said, and I remembered it.
Preach.
Always. And looked for it in different stories and pieces. And it's like, even when it's not expressly coming from a Christian source, it like comes up over and over again, and
because it's so human. It's like the human yearning, we're made for Christ, right? So like even without trying, people who are creating stories or other forms of media like are going towards that without even realizing, because it's like the human story. It's made for Christ.
Well, Christ as the fulfillment of all myth, right? Like myth is this grand thing, but like myth is made up, right? As we know, but like he is the actual incarnate fulfillment.
He's the ultimate story, but it's real.
Yes.
And myth can also
amazing.
Myth doesn't necessarily mean fiction. Like you could say like,
oh yes, tell us with your anthropological
background. I'm pulling back from an old English class of mine, but myth would be like a story used to explain something. So like Bible stories would also, like the flood explains all these different things that, around the world, or why we have the rainbow, it doesn't mean it's not true, but it's a story that explains. You can call it a myth and not say that it can't be true.
So
that story, at least.
What's neat is we can't escape it. So I think it was Love Him or Don't Like Him. Jordan Peterson said, if you take away God from a society, they still have myth, and myth still like represents good versus evil and truths, So it's like you can't run away from the truth. Yeah. I think that's pretty neat.
And I think this all goes back to like similar to the creativity episode we had a few back, where we're talking about like Christ. Well, God, Christ, who's part of the triune Godhead, as the creator, but we were made in God's image. And so we have this desire to create. And so all these stories and stuff are our fellow humans creating these stories that pull on our hearts. And hopefully if we're consuming them correctly, they're pointing us back to God.
They're edifying. Exactly.
Okay, so what is everyone's just like come to mind top story that changed you, that...
Well, we've talked about this a lot, but then my immediate ones is Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And probably the ones you guys are going to choose. Also, I think of C.S. Lewis. Narnia,
Good stuff.
and Les Miserables. I think of a lot of musicals. What about you guys?
Christine, what are some of your top
influential
works?
Like stories?
Secular
We're talking
stories.
It doesn't have to be just stories because we're talking secular media.
Yeah, because I don't want to neglect
could be music,
the other
too.
media. Because I'm thinking of like music wise, I really love like folk and folk rock music, like Simon and Garfunkel, ultimate, Joni Mitchell. And I think like folk music is like a whole thing. It's interesting. Simon and Garfunkel as an example, they're both like Jewish, as far as I know. They're both Jewish, but Jesus comes up in their music a lot. And I think that's really interesting because like you can't escape him,
Yeah.
And even someone who's not a practicing Christian has these themes in their music that is so human to explore and to engage with. And so like they'll sing something and I'll be like, yes, you don't even know what you're saying. That's so good, because that does shine through. So
that you can't escape the truth. And things that aren't truthful are just entertainment, and that's a whole kind of other category. But those are the stories that fade and you never hear about again, really. Even non-Christians are going to write a story where this great person, something awful happens to it, and how do they overcome it,
most of the time.
But unless you're talking about just purely entertaining, like a horror movie that's no benefit to watch, but it's just purely like, fun. Or
there are many stories that come up even from non-Christians that good and evil, all of that.
And that's always
very
going to happen
theme.
where other things kind of fall by the wayside.
Yeah. I'll bring up other examples as we discuss the topic.
Katie, kick us off with a big one. How about you?
Of my most influential.
I've never said that in my life. Yeah.
How about you?
Okay, well the big one I'm going to talk about that I know takes some heat in the Christian world is Harry Potter, and I have a lot to say about Harry Potter, but I do have some other like musicals for sure. Seussical the musical, like a random one like that, has made me cry and think of how good humanity can be if we only help each other. And then Disney, I've expressed that I love Disney before, but particularly Hunchback of Notre Dame was one of my favorites growing up.
Interesting.
And especially when I got a little bit older and could understand the deeper meaning behind a story, Hunchback of Notre Dame was really beautiful.
Most musicals have some degree of mythology, and are light versus darkness. Even like for some reason, Music Man came up. We all like Music Man. I've been in it twice. So have you, right?
Yes, I'm marching to 76
and
trombones in my head.
And it's cool because it's a very secular show. There's no mention of God or anything that I can think of. And it's this guy who's like what's it called? A swindler?
Con man.
A con man.
Swindler works.
What is a swindler? Okay.
He swindles.
He
cons.
And he
don't play no music.
And he is kind of the enemy in a way, but he becomes good because of this girl. And
love softens.
I feel like it's very love softens his heart. I don't know why I thought of Music Man, but I was like, even like Music Man, this simple, just like humorous thing can still be good versus
and it's the redemption of this man who was solely focused on himself and money and all these things. And then,
I'm just thinking of so many exciting examples.
I know.
There's
and then that's another theme besides the just dying to yourself is repentance. Repentance is in so many myths, so many stories. Les Miserables,
redemptive arc.
We already talked about Les Miserables in our creativity episode.
Yes, so go back and watch it.
Go back and watch it. But we will probably talk about that too because like that's also one of the ultimate stories. It's so good.
And then as we're talking, if any ideas strike you for like, oh, they should do an episode on this, I would love to hear about this. Make sure you put that in the comments.
Do a whole episode for each of these.
I know.
Things.
We get excited when we think about it. But okay, can we talk Harry Potter?
HP.
Yes, let's do it.
Lay it on us.
Do it.
and school of witchcraft and wizardry.
We'll say this knowing that it can be a little bit of a controversial.
Yes.
within the church. Okay.
Yes.
All right,
Uh,
Katie, have you
First
read
of all,
the books?
yes.
You like Harry
multiple
Potter?
times.
Have you read the books?
Yes.
Okay, as have I.
And seen the movies.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler
also.
alert. Maybe
Do-
put timestamps of like what they should
Yes,
skip
yes.
to.
Skip
if
to,
you
I
don't
just
want
say-
spoilers.
This one?
Can I just say, I didn't finish reading the series until I was a young adult, and someone slipped a big spoiler, and it was like,
Like the
Totally,
biggest
you know.
spoiler you can.
so if you're one of those 2 people out there who haven't watched all the movies or read all the books yet,
Or of Music Man.
please kindly tune out.
We never finished Music Man.
Were there
Sorry, we
76
spoiled it.
trombones?
Yeah.
Did they all get together?
Yeah. Okay,
right.
Katie.
Okay, well, clearly from what I've said so far, this is going to be a defense of Harry Potter.
Yes.
And I'm going to share the reasons I believe that it has been personally edifying and can be edifying for others. I say that with the caveat, understanding, especially any moms who are watching, like you have to discern if it's okay to allow your children to consume. There are dark things in it. There's a story, I think one of you both had the story, can tell of like
a priest friend.
up front, we're going to acknowledge that like there are things that can be problematic, and so how do we
And we've heard most of those things. So.
yes and so how do we approach something like this that obviously I believe for me has been a really good thing, and a lot of people I
Same.
know in discussions I've had and all of that. So so first of all, for the positive sides of Harry Potter with the spoilers.
Spoilers, yep, come in. So
So the biggest like blaring one from what we've already talked about in this episode is the resurrection.
yes.
So spoilers, skip it if you don't want to know.
It happened to me. It couldn't happen to you.
Harry, in the very end of the last book, sacrifices himself for everyone else.
His life.
And instead of him dying forever, Voldemort actually kills the piece of his soul that he didn't know was in Harry. So killing the darkness, overcoming the darkness.
Yeah.
And then Harry resurrects and ultimately saves everyone and kills Voldemort.
Yeah.
So, resurrection.
What?
He kills Voldemort.
Just kidding.
You know who.
Very, like, clear connection
Yes.
to Christianity. The other thing in Harry Potter is the view of death is very Christian.
The resurrection is also a theme that we see over and over in Harry Potter, like with the Phoenix. You know, the Phoenix gets old and dies, and then becomes like a new. And the Phoenix heals him. Is it in the second book? He gets like bitten by the snake, and then the Phoenix like cries, and it heals Harry, and he's like a new person again. So it's like a common theme: the resurrection, the dying to yourself, and we're quite literally told to pick up your cross and follow Christ. And Harry is given like a really short end of the stick with everything he's up against, and he still decides to do the right thing.
It's very Frodo of him. Frodo is another one of those archetypes.
Yeah.
So, okay, the quote from Googling, it looks like the quote is, "The last enemy that shall be destroyed is death." And that is in Corinthians, so it's in the Bible, but it's inscribed on Harry's parents' grave. And when Harry and Hermione see it, they're kind of confused. They're like, wait, like Voldemort's the one who wants to overcome death. Like what, why wouldn't my parents think that? But they come to realize that it's not, it doesn't mean like overcoming death, like immortality.
Like avoiding death.
Yeah. It's like facing it
Yes.
and accepting it, but that as Christians, obviously we believe we've been saved and we're being saved and we shall be saved, and Christ has overcome death, right? And then Voldemort, his whole thing is he wants to cheat death so much that he will do the worst acts of evil to literally split his soul into as many pieces as possible.
It's like a perversion of overcoming death. He
Yes.
wants to live forever.
And so his version of it, and then by doing so, he completely strips himself of his humanity. He doesn't even look human anymore. And
Which, hello.
Yeah. He's a snake.
Yeah.
Who's that an analogy for? He looks like a snake. He gets like the nose that looks like a snake, and he can talk to snakes and all these things. So all that to say, there's all these like very Christian symbol parallels, such as snakes.
We do have to mention too, the author is a Christian.
Yes.
Which helps. Not saying all these things that we're talking about today come from Christians, but it's still considered secular.
Well, and I also wanted to share, so this was an article about Harry Potter that was written by my Aunt Wendy Braun.
Shout out to Aunt Wendy.
And she is the daughter, one of the daughters of Father Peter Gilchrist of blessed memory. So Father Peter, way back when Harry Potter was starting to get big, wrote an article in Again magazine, yes, about like Harry Potter and addressing it, and is it okay? So this is a quote from my Aunt Wendy, but it's referring to Father Peter's words. Yeah. So my dad took a look at Harry's supernatural world. What kid in America, even in an Orthodox or Christian home, doesn't at one time or other wish he could just fly off with his friends or do something else? We need another kingdom world. That's why kids are picking up on Harry Potter. Dad went on to talk about how we yearn for another world, and for Christians, that will be the kingdom of God someday.
I love that. It's so true. Honestly, that's why we like myth and these stories and even this music that's like otherworldly, because it resonates with our soul and it gives us that yearning.
Yeah.
While she's looking up this quote, I will let you know we will add some links in the description, like to that article.
Yes.
We will put it down below.
Okay, I thought this was a C.S. Lewis quote. It's showing up on my phone as Neil Gaiman. But fairy tales are more than true, not because they tell us that dragons exist, but because they tell us that dragons can be beaten.
Ooh, I love that.
I've heard variations of that quote before.
Yeah.
But
That's beautiful. Well, that's why we're attracted to these stories, because we want, like we kind of mentioned in the creativity episode. Sorry, were you in the middle?
No, go ahead.
We mentioned it a little bit in the creativity episode where it's like, I could be Frodo and do like this epic triumphant thing and bring the thing, the ring of power into Mount Doom. But in my own mundane life, I don't know how to fight whatever. Yeah. But it's like, but we have to bring that into our own lives and be like, hey, this person isn't, like whatever difficult thing I'm going through in my life, this is my time to like overcome that. Dragon. This is Mike number 3.
That was always my thing with the Harry Potter, like those who are so against it. Like, what's the difference between the magic in like Lord of the Rings or Narnia? There's a witch in Narnia because people say like, oh, it's the witchcraft. We can talk more about the true like evil of actual like witchcraft in the world and Wiccans and stuff, and we can talk about that with the story. But it's like the evil witch is in the very first Narnia story too, like witchcraft being in something. I guess the witch is bad in Narnia though, so that's the difference. But like
Harry Potter,
in Harry Potter, it just means like a woman who can do magic. Like that's just like the word that she chose.
Female. It's up there with another like elf, ogre,
like wizard,
it's these
witch,
different types of characters. It doesn't necessarily mean like what a real witch would do.
Yes. And so to me, I don't see, because it's so much that like story of good and evil, and there's all these Christian symbols, and like it genuinely has helped me like understand Christian concepts better in my life. Like I see the good in something like that.
While we're on that topic, I think we should mention we had a priest friend that worked at Barnes & Noble.
Was this before he was a priest?
This is way before he was a priest. And he was working at Barnes & Noble when Harry Potter was really big and the movies started coming out. And he saw a lot of young kids, teenagers coming in and buying like Wiccan books and witchcraft books. So he... Spell books immediately was like, Harry Potter is not good. My first thought is, has he though ever read Harry Potter? And I'm not questioning him, especially as a priest. I don't know what his thoughts are today, But it just shows, like you said about parental guidance, because if you read the books, Harry Potter, it's not the whole point of it is entertainment, but also to the myth of it and trying to emulate like these characters and be fighting in the good fight. It's not to go get a spell book and actually be a witch, because that's a totally different thing.
Right.
And so you have to use, especially moms, we have our internal discernment. I was like, decipherment? Discernment. And so, like, anything, though, could be twisted. You could read Lord of the Rings and be like, oh, there's wizards in it. I'm going to be a wizard, or a sorcerer.
Like, I'm going to be an elf.
Music man, I'm going to be a con man or something. Like, that's not the point of the story,
That's the life for me.
It's like, if you and some people can't read Harry Potter and get the same thing out of it, and they shouldn't do it because it's not good for their soul.
And I think parents have to know their own children and know how their child is going to respond to it. If your child like really gets like crazy into things, like maybe hold off on the Harry Potter, you know. And if you know for yourself it's not going to be good, if you're going to get so drawn into the fantasy world that it takes you out of reality, or using it, not that like there's some level of escape from reality that we enjoy with books, but if it takes us so much out of reality, it's not good for us. Like we have to discern those things for ourselves and of course for our children. But I don't think that in itself that means that the actual work is bad.
Exactly. Yeah. Because you, like we said, like you can take anything save the Bible, you know, and like, I mean, the Bible you could twist, you know, but
people do that all the time.
People do it all the time, but I mean, yeah. So
well, if you made an honest, like, if you made a feature film accurately portraying everything in the Bible, it would definitely be rated R.
Yes, that's true. So,
for many reasons,
you have to protect yourself and use discernment no matter what. You know?
We've all grown up in the church and always had that ingrained in us first, and then you know these things have come along. You know, Harry Potter was when I was in like middle school and high school, and it was all coming out. So when you're growing up with that orthodox phronema, that orthodox outlook and worldview, that's the foundation for how you understand the world, then when you're taking these forms of media, you can kind of filter it and project what you need onto it and take the good that you need out of it, you know. So like for example, Harry Potter, I wasn't like, oh, these are what real witches are like and they have all the fun, you know. It was like, oh, there's these Christian themes that are like, yeah, they're like fighting that fight that we do spiritually, and it's like just really in front of your face, you know, like we
magnifying.
Yeah, it's just on display, you know, like what Harry goes through, what he suffers. I mean, first he's orphaned and goes through abuse, and then you're a wizard, Harry. And then like, wow, it's kind of like this form of salvation almost, you know, but he still has to enter into it and engage and choose good continually.
Again, it's like the resurrection. He becomes like this. It's like a new life he starts over and over as he learns these lessons. And that's like each of us become, you know, die to ourselves, resurrect, isn't like we're constantly trying to.
Well, he's like this imperfect figure of Christ, right? Just as many of the Old Testament people who prefigured Christ were humans who were imperfect. True, yeah. It's like Harry Potter, the character, because he, you know, dies for people and resurrects, like that, you know, is a very clear, like, Christ connection. But it almost allows us to connect more to him as, like, a human, because we're being perfected in Christ, but, like, we're majorly in the struggle. And so, like, we can relate to Harry's struggle.
Right. The archetypal story, the ultimate story is Jesus. And he was the best person, and took on the worst punishment, and then died to himself, died for us, resurrected. So we're all supposed to try to emulate that in some way. But the difference is we have a piece of the darkness with us. We live in a fallen world. We're imperfect. We sin. So,
which Harry literally has.
So literally, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, so Harry isn't necessarily representing Jesus as much as he's representing us all trying to be like Jesus.
Yes.
Because he's not perfect. He can't even do magic perfectly. He makes mistakes. You know, he's just a kid. Like, and I remember reading it the first time being like, oh, he's not like this like hero, you know, he's just like this kid, and he ends up being a hero.
When he suffers abuse.
Yeah,
too.
he suffers abuse, all these very like human things we can relate to, and he has what's it called? The dark night of the soul. He goes through all these like things, and then he resurrects.
Well, it's interesting.
And it's I was just gonna say, and so that's like it's the same. You see this in time and time again. Frodo with the ring. Harry Potter had a piece of Voldemort literally with him. Frodo has the ring. There's so many examples of that though, where you're like trying to defeat the darkness within you.
Yes. Well, what's interesting is I've heard literary criticism of the character of Harry Potter being that he's almost like too just normal. Like he's too like he's not like a super special hero, whatever people like, oh, he's not.
But he's got a scar that makes him special. Like,
but that's the whole thing is I'm like, I think that's part of what makes it such a good story and what makes him so relatable is
he's
like
not instantly
anyone
popular
can relate to like the different things he's going through in his own imperfections.
Yeah. We all look at the history, like dark times in our history, and we're like, I would have been like the Joan of Arc of my time, or I would have been the one like helping people sneak out of like, you know, awful situations. But really, once we realize like we easily could have been the bad guys, like we all have the capacity to not do good, and we have to defeat that evil within ourselves, the fallen nature, the sin, and be the Harry Potter, the Frodo, the Jean Valjean, you know, yeah.
I was just thinking about Lord of the Rings, and I remember when we were deeply steeped in it when the movies were coming out and everything, being like, wait, which one is the Jesus figure? Because you have Frodo, but you also have Aragorn, you also have Gandalf, who also dies and resurrects, comes back white and shiny and all powerful, you know, like, literally. And I'm like, wow.
Gandalf the White.
Yes. And so, and then I was kind of like, I remember going through it like, well, there's no like Jesus figure that's like clearly that one's Jesus, you know.
Same with like Dumbledore. He's not like all perfect, like God.
Yeah.
He's not God.
But then it also makes it more of a human story because like, yeah, not any one of them is the savior, but they are all emulating Christ, you know, like they're all just like we're each called to in our own stories, you know, like,
exactly.
Well, that was when I know Tolkien like criticized Lewis for being too like
literal.
Aslan is Jesus.
Yes,
you know?
I know, yeah.
And Tolkien was like, no, it needs to be more allegorical, you know.
And the whole like fighting your dark
little
side, like I
mystery.
was saying, you take like Gandalf versus Saruman, and who are two great wizards, and one chose to go the good route and had to die to himself. The other one chose the bad route to follow Sauron and died an awful death. And myth reminds us that we could go either way. We have to go the right way. And there's a lot of characters in Harry Potter too that you want to be good but end up being bad, and a lot of bad characters that end up being good. And I love all the like symbolism there for our own lives.
For sure.
you mentioned that the view of death in Harry Potter is very Christian, and that is another thing, not just death and resurrection and overcoming death, but like I remember there was like literally a veil, you know, like between kind of like
Sirius dies.
yeah,
Spoilers.
where and like, Harry was like so close to it, and he could like
He could hear the voices because he had lost so many people, and everyone else was like, "Harry, what are you talking about?"
yeah, and just you know, as Orthodox Christians, like knowing the spiritual world is all around us and so close to us is a part of our everyday life and beliefs. They also have the thestrals. Is that how you say it? Those creatures that you can only
horses, right?
Yeah, you can only see them if you've witnessed someone die, and that's like just a really cool symbol for me. I was going to say a thimble, the thestral, the thimble. If you've gone through that, you have this spiritual awareness, this acquaintance with death that
When you've lost someone close or witnessed.
And Harry, doesn't he not even realize like why? Well, at first he doesn't know why he can see it, no one else can. Mm-hmm. And then he finds out it's his parents.
Sorry.
Spoiler alert.
I feel like that sometimes as Orthodox Christians, like we see this like spiritual stuff in the world that we're like, oh, you guys don't understand. Like, you didn't realize that is like temptation or spiritual warfare or whatever.
Well, even too, like again, like another Harry Potter death thing is when Harry after Sirius dies, Harry seeks out a conversation with Nearly Head and the Snake, the ghost, and that conversation. Nick says like, oh, I've had this multiple times when someone's lost somebody and they have this hope that like, oh, maybe he came back as a ghost and I can still talk to him or whatever. And he's like, but the ghosts in the Harry Potter world choose to be ghosts because they're like scared to move on. And so they choose this like form of immortality where they're like stuck in this state and never get to actually fully participate in what comes next. But what he actually says, what Nick tells Harry is he doesn't actually, because of the choice he made to become a ghost, like he doesn't actually know anything more about death and the truth of it than anyone who's living does, because he chose to kind of the more cowardly route.
I like how like in the first book, in the early books, there's like, oh, you're a wizard and there's this world where there's ghosts at the castle that you live in, But then as you read on, it gets deeper and is explained more. She says like, okay, this isn't all, like this isn't what happens when you die. You go haunt a castle that kids are studying at,
Well, and the kids, as the characters mature and get older, the story matures and it gets darker,
like ages
too.
with you as you read it,
right? Which is another like discernment thing as a parent, because it does get really dark, especially in the last several books, and so you have to know your child's maturity level and are they going to be able to understand this and get good spiritual things out of it, or is it just going to cause fear, and that would not be a good thing.
I wanted to share about this other story that I just discovered, the Tale of Despereaux. It's by Kate DiCamillo, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, and it's this like children's novel that I had always been interested in, and we listened to the audiobook and it was so good. I was like, this is up there. There's like Narnia and then there's like the Tale of Despereaux. It's so good because this is the opening line. Okay, the world is dark and light is precious. Come closer, dear reader. You must trust me. I am telling you a story. And then later on, in the story, there's another quote that says, stories are light. Light is precious in a world so dark. Begin at the beginning. Tell Gregory a story. Make some light. And so like just right off the bat, there's this contrast of light and dark. And the importance of stories in bringing light into the world. And the story is about this little mouse trying to save a princess, and there's rats, and there's this like kind of morally neutral other girl in the middle of it all. And it's just such a good story. But I love those quotes from it.
Did you read it with your girls?
Yeah, we listened to it in the car and some of our road trips, and I highly recommend. I just loved it. So
text me or we'll link it.
We'll include it in our notes.
That sounds good.
Well, something that reminded me of, because in general we've been talking a lot about myth and story, but Christ himself used parables, stories,
I was talking about that earlier.
Tell his points and to get them across. So that goes to show that like humans need that form.
To drive it home.
To get the point across, right? Rather than just like flat out saying it. It's like the parable was what Christ used, and it's kind of what authors continue to use to tell these important truths of humanity.
I know that some people, like Orthodox people, might not like Harry Potter or certain things, for instance.
And which is fine.
Which is fine.
You don't have to.
You don't have to. But I it's close to me because I like to write, and one of the stories I'm working on and off for years now is a fantasy, and there's definitely good and definitely bad, and I love it because it does give me more of like a purpose. It feels spiritual, just like writing and reading these things. It's not just entertainment, and you can kind of know when things are just entertainment or shock value and not edifying, you know? I've seen things in my past, movies, and even read books that there's nothing really edifying. It's just shock factor or it just feels empty and flat. And those either you remember them because you were like weirded out or whatever, or you just forget about them. But like a good story, you just don't, you can just like mention the title and all these feelings come flooding back.
I have to bring up this genre. I love dystopian stories.
Oh, yeah.
And kind of on the other end of Harry Potter is like the Hunger Games.
I was going to say, yeah, Hunger Games. Good.
Which, as far as I know, was written by an atheist. And like it kind of shows because it doesn't all end with like salvation, you know? Because I remember reading it and like, well, obviously people are killing people in the Hunger Games.
Right. Spoiler alert.
That's right straight out the chute, you know? And I remember being like, wow, what's going through her mind? From that perspective, like it's not a Christian story. It is totally secular and it's set in a secular world. There's no mention of religious beliefs or anything. It's just humanity. And you see this godless world that has gone, you know, people killing people for entertainment. And you see like gluttony to the maximum, and you see like the full extent of these sins. Like where people are so prideful and so vain that they make themselves up so much that they're actually ugly, but they've lost sight of it, you know? Like
the cat lady that looks like a cat.
Oh yeah, just like awful.
Plastic surgery
Anyone with an ounce of sense is like, what are you doing? You know?
But that's the whole point. Yeah.
Right.
Ridiculous.
So even in this very secular story, it still shows these truths of taking any sin to the extreme, and how it affects you. And then I just love dystopian stories because it's got this oppressive factor, you know, whether it's like the government or war or whatever. And through that, someone has to rise above and fight the system and overcome.
Yeah.
And I just like another kind of dystopian story that I love, Ready Player One.
I've not read it.
It is so cool. Like I didn't know that I would love it, but I think about that book all the time and I'm like, that was cool. So Ready Player One is another story about kind of an average guy who rises above and becomes a hero in a very broken world where everyone's obsessed with being fake, you know, kind of like the direction we're headed right now, you know, and living in this virtual world. And so I just like seeing like something taken to the extreme and showing its oppressiveness so we can be like, yeah, let's fight against it. Let's not let it happen.
It's a futuristic myth, you know, it's a myth of what could be.
But also it shows like in any setting, that need for all of us to overcome whatever is fighting against us in our
really
spiritual
quick,
life.
Before we move on from Hunger Games, I wanted to say something about Hunger Games. Katniss literally volunteers as tribute. She's sacrificing herself.
Yeah.
She's laying down her life for her sister. A secular person, no big religion, but she still volunteers as tribute. And there's something like spiritual and beautiful about that. And even a secular atheist would look at that and say, that's real love right there.
One thing I had this revelation about with dystopian stories is it's a really good answer to the question of why doesn't God just blink? Like, why does God allow evil? Why doesn't he just like, because that's what like dystopian civilizations try to do is they make it good and everyone's fine and controlled, but it's really not, right? And so The Giver is a really good example of like, oh, there's no pain. We take away all these things and we also take away your choices. And this is the world that we're left with. And so I think it's all of those, for those who struggle with that question of like, why does God allow evil? We actually have really good examples in literature and movies and all of that of what that world could look like if free will is not allowed.
Some people have been like, why do you believe in God if you see all this suffering? And for me, two things. I'm like, how do you not believe in God? Like, that's our only hope because of all the suffering.
Right.
Like, without God, it would be awful. Like, nothing would be worth it. And then...
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
That I think part of the problem is in a lot of Christianity today, I think in a lot of non-Orthodox Christianity, there's this idea of avoiding suffering. Like Jesus will come and cure your life, which he can in certain areas, certain things. But the Orthodox understanding is not avoiding suffering. It is, how do you use that suffering for your salvation? Like, we're all going to suffer. Spoiler alert.
That's what I was going to say. We've heard stories of saints who've gone to heaven and told people they would have gone through what they went through on earth like millions of times to get to heaven.
To reach that
So
glory.
it's all worth it. Another Jordan Peterson quote is, and I'm paraphrasing, it's like, life is struggling and can be very despair and hardships. And we have to do something epic in our lives and overcome ourselves to make it worth it. And that's so true because of all the suffering, the more the suffering and hardships, the more beautiful the goodness. And that's in these stories. The uglier the evil, the truths of the evil is, the grosser Sauron looks, or the orcs, or
snake like
or
Voldemort is.
Yeah, I almost said Slytherin. Yeah, Voldemort. C.S. Lewis or Tolkien, I forget which one, they were not a fan of Disney. Have you heard about this? I forget which one. And he saw Snow White and he was like, you guys didn't make the dwarves ugly enough. Like, you didn't make the evil
Sounds
enough.
like Tolkien.
Yeah, you didn't make them ugly enough and evil enough to show like the beauty of it. So he was like a critic of Disney for not going there. But I think Disney for kids especially is good because it's like a more tame version. And but they are scary. Some Disney movies are scary for kids.
Yeah. Well, in that particular case, I don't think the dwarves are supposed to be represent
the
a
quote
scary.
he says.
I think they're more of like they represent innocence and
they're almost like childlike. Yeah.
Yes.
And so sometimes like the darker the story. And that's why, like, in my own writing, at first, as I was younger, I was, like, scared to go too dark. But I'm like, ooh, the darker I go, the more, like, impact it has. And so, like, all these movies and stuff. That's why sometimes when people ask me my favorite movies, a lot of them are really sad or something. And I'm like, because I feel like the more emotional a story is, the more impact it has on me in a good way. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's just...
best stories make you cry.
Yes.
Or poems or songs.
Like, it's not the most Christian, like, with the archetypes, but Titanic I love because it's so sad. But then you see they're reuniting at the end, and it makes it all like, oh, okay,
Full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think I want to thank you both for such a lively discussion.
We could go on.
I know.
For
and we could do a part
hours.
two.
About like other media things that we haven't
I know,
touched
because
on.
we mostly talked about like literature.
So maybe we will.
Maybe we'll have
TV
Nalzo
shows,
back
there's
on
some
for a
good
music episode.
Yeah.
Woo.
So much
I
to
like
talk about,
him.
guys.
Because I think when people talk about consuming secular media, I think a lot of the times it's so much more than just books,
Yes,
certain stories. So let's come back and talk more.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, goals, appreciations,
And goodbyes.
My goal was to do the Whole30 diet, and overall I did pretty well. So
You look good. You look healthy. And all the
I'm
things.
starting to get my energy back, so that's very
Nice.
good.
My goal was cleaning my house. Christine? No, I didn't do horrible, but we have had a lot of things happening in our life lately, including my kids being really sick. and it's been difficult. So it's going to be an uphill battle. I'm going to pick up my cross and try to bear it
Long-term
through.
journey.
Yeah, it's a long-term journey, but I have had some good cleaning days. Christine, what was your goal?
My goal was to pick things up off the floor in the kitchen and dining area.
Good goal.
It's not like we have a dining room. It's just like there's a counter between the kitchen part and the eating part. And it's been all right. I've been like, I don't think crumbs and things that I need to sweep up count because I've been putting those off. But yeah, it was just kind of that mind frame shift to just do it, just pick up the thing. And I've pretty much been doing it. So yay. Way to go, gals, on your goals.
Sorry, those appreciations. I'll start.
Go ahead, Emily.
I'm going to say I'm so thankful for my mama, who just passed away. We just found out yesterday that she passed away early yesterday morning, and we talked about her last episode, I believe, and just salt of the earth, down to earth woman. I was telling Katie before this, like she was 92. She was ready and peaceful at the end of her life, knowing what was to come after this life, and she was ready. And her whole life has been a good example to us of like a strong woman without, with very few words, good sense of humor, all these things. But her faith at the end really stood out to me. She was like, I'm ready and I know it's coming next. And she just had this peace about her in that way. And she was dealing with difficult things. Not like pain and a little bit of dementia and things, but she's still, as far as faith, it was still there. And she didn't have to say much, but we knew that it was all there. So I'm thankful for her. Memory eternal.
Memory eternal.
I appreciate today, not just today. Today, my appreciation I'm sharing is for our mom, Kim. Mooch, we call her. She's been up with Mama Bacon, and she's still up there now. I'm just thinking of what she's going through up there, and also having her away. It's like, oh, I miss her. So I miss having her around, and thankful that we're in her home and feeling her presence, even though she's not with us. But she's just a few hours north. Anyways, I appreciate my mother. Katie?
It's like you take someone out of your life, you don't realize how big of like an impact. You're like, we have a mooch-shaped hole in our heart right now. A mom.
It was their grandma because we're cousins, so not the grandma we share. Just to clarify. So with the discussion we've had today, I just wanted to appreciate all the amazing authors who've been gifted with giving us these beautiful stories, and let us know what you're most interested in hearing more about.
And I have a good question. If you're watching this and you've lasted this long, write your favorite either movie or book in the comments.
Oh, I like that.
Yes.
That's good. Okay.
Please.
And that'll tell us that you made it all the way to the end.
So we'll know who really stayed to the end.
Or at least leave a book emoji, something, a sparkle.
Yes. I love it. Okay. Thank you for connecting with us. This has been Mugs and Mercy. Cheers.